with commercial banking. Alright, so saya belum marking lagi you all punya exam, but I will let you know the results later lah. Right, so for today, we're going to do a new topic. Kalau ikut the performa, this week should be offshore, but I skip offshore because commercial banking is quite lengthy. Kita akan buat commercial banking for 2 weeks, this week and also next week. And then you can go for semester break, and when you come back, kita continue offshore. Alright, so commercial banking, you can always go back to your bank of your choice for the assignments to look at the content, to look at the items in the financial statements and also the services provided by each bank. Okay, I will share my screen. I hope everyone has already downloaded the notes. And also I have sent you a reminder. You get a reminder from my guru, which actually indicates your performance or your progress based on your performance using the My Guru, because they keep track your activities, whether you download the notes, whether you answer the forum, whether you submit the assignments, and whether you completed the quizzes. So you can see the performance, and you should actually complete the module to get the 100%. So if you haven't downloaded the notes, please do so, right? Because after the break, I will look at the progress again. Okay, just a little reminder for you that, you know, maybe you didn't download the note yet, or you just read tapi tak download. So they keep track lah your performance. All right, so let's proceed with commercial banking. Okay. So in commercial banking here, I have also included Islamic banking topic. That is why you have to perform a bit of a research regarding Islamic contracts. And I need the report, just 1-page infographic. And if you wonder whether you can find the contracts in your, you know, the bank of your choice for your assignments, don't worry, this is not related to your banks. Let's say you choose CIMB and you want to do Islamic contract, one istisna contohnya. So it doesn't have to be contract coming from CIMB. It can be from any banks, not necessarily from the bank of your choice, because sometimes the contract that you've chosen to, the banks of your choice, dia tak ada contract tu. So there's some leeway there. You can find any banks with a contract, for the example. But most importantly, I need you to define and also define the different types of contract lah, the definition this module. All right. So for commercial banking, what we're going to look at this topic, I've divided into 2 parts. So part 1 will be covered this week, and we are going to have part 2 next week. All right. So for part 1, more towards the sources and uses of funds. This topic is related to your assignment 2. Saya belum letak lagi soalan dia, but this is related to your assignment 2. And later when we finish this topic, I will update our assignment. So you still have 2 more assignments to go. So assignment 2 is related to commercial banking, the sources and uses of funds. And your assignment 3 nanti related to towards the end of the syllabus lah, because topic 3 nanti related to some of the calculation that we might have. Okay, so for part 1, commercial banking part 1, we're going to look at the sources and uses of funds, the structure of the financial statements, and also the risk of financial institutions. All right, but basically when we look at the risk of financial institutions, we are looking at quite a similar risk that we have already discussed before in our prior topics. All right, and when we do part 2 is more about the banking products and services. And as you all presented earlier, the big chunk of assets and liability from the banks are actually from deposits and also loan and advances, right? So we are going to look at these products in detail, and then a bit on card services and internet banking, and also Islamic banking. Alright, so what is a bank actually? Dah sampai minggu ke-8 dah ni kan, kita tengok the definition of bank. So bank is actually a licensed bank under Financial Services Act 2013. A person licensed to carry on banking business. You must have a license. So banking in business, why do we need banks? So you can see here are the functions or we can say why do we need a bank in business? So first of all, banks functions as a deposit receiver. So they receive deposits on different types of accounts, whereby we can have current account, deposit account, savings account, or other similar accounts. Even yourself kan, you also ada account, your PTPTN semua masuk dalam account. So macam I have my salary account in my savings account. So banks function as to receive deposits, pay and collecting checks drawn by or paid in by customer. So not only they receive deposit, they also pay and collect the checks. Provisions of finance. Okay, so bila cakap pasal banking business ni, so they have the provision for finance and they can lend money. Okay, they can do leasing, factoring, purchase of POE and acceptance or guarantee any liability, obligation or duty of any person. So remember masa kita buat money market tu, so commercial papers and all the short-term market instruments comes from banks. And other business as allowed by negara Malaysia with the approval from MOF, right? Okay, so the focus here for this topic is commercial banks, and because we're going to have another topic covering investment banks. And masa awal dulu kita ada tengok lah the different types of financial institution kan, kita buat DFI semua tu. But the main category yang kita fokus lebih is actually commercial banks lah, and also investment bank. Kita akan tengok later nanti on investment bank. So commercial bank, why we must learn more about commercial banks? Because they are the largest and main players in the banking system. So the bank that you choose ni, CIMB, Maybank, apa semua tu, they are the main players in the banking system, and they are called commercial banks. And what they do, they are providing current account facilities, the main characteristic, where payment can be made through issuing checks. But current account is for individuals, and you can use a checkbook for current account. Alright, so again, the functions of commercial banks, mobilization of savings. Remember, kita ada buat chart tu kan, kita ada deposit, surplus and also deficit tu. So whoever ada surplus, dia akan pergi letak dekat bank, dan whoever yang ada deficit akan buat loan from that bank. So the money flow tu macam tu. Mobilization of savings. Provision of facilities for payment and deposits. Right, macam sekarang kan, you go beli something apa semua, you bayar guna mobile banking dia pun. So tolak from your accounts. So you can do payment lah using your bank account. Granting loans and advances. Mungkin sekarang you belum pergi buat loan lagi. So kita dah tengok based from your presentation last time. So the loans can be personal loan, housing loan semua tu. Right? So bank give loans and advances to the customers. Financing of government. Okay, they also provide financing for government. And also provision of various facilities and services authorized by BNM. Okay, dia tak boleh buat suka-suka lah. All the activities macam they issue credit cards, they issue new products, even ada takaful semua tu. Those are actually facilities and services authorized by negara. So these are basically the definitions lah, what I have showed you before. Okay, so other various banking facilities including trade finance, ini yang kita buat money market instruments tu, treasury services, cross-border payment service, custody service, ada fixed deposit semua tu, and also to deal with Forex. So commercial banking pun deal dengan Forex ni. Kita tengok the price hari tu kan, kita tengok dia punya rate semua tu. So those are coming from commercial banks. Alright, next would be the sources and uses of funds and structure of financial statements of banking institutions. So by now, you already presented your assignment 1 hari tu, looking at the assets and liabilities of bank. So by now, you should understand that the financial statement of the bank is actually, kita boleh kata, is a mirror ataupun kita kata terbalik lah from manufacturer ataupun retail business. Okay, so sources of funds. You presented earlier, deposit paling tinggi. So the sources of funds come from deposits, come from borrowings, comes from currency, comes from funds from other financial institutions, and sometimes they have insurance and also provident fund, capital reserve and profit, and also other liability. Okay, so sources of fund talking about the liability and also the reserve. Okay, uses of fund is actually the asset. Okay, deposit with other financial institution, loan and advances, securities to government, gold and forex reserve, and also other assets. So these are the sources of funds. So I have shared with you here. This is M-Bank Holdings Berhad financial statement of financial positions. So ada group yang buat M-Bank kan. So this is actually from the financial statement year end March 2021. Okay, so you can see here kalau kita tengok the group figure ni. So these are the assets. Lain sikit dengan asset yang company biasa kan. So the cash of course akan duduk kat atas. And then here the big chunk datang dari loan, advances and financing. So these are their assets. Property and equipment dia ada tapi tak banyak. Intangible assets ada tapi tak banyak. Financial instruments, dia ada deposit and placement with banks and other financial institution. Okay, dia ada derivative, financial assets, dia ada derivative juga. So these are the total assets. So these are actually the users of fund dia lah. So this is the users of fund. Dan kita nak tengok dia punya sources of fund pula. Okay, the sources of funds coming from deposit from customer. Paling banyak And then we go down, deposit and placement of banks and other financial institution. And then turun lagi, we have capital. Ini kita ada, dia ada insurance juga. Dia ada other liabilities. So these are the sources of fund. And these are the share capital. Right? So these are basically the elements ataupun the items lah dalam statement of financial position of a bank. So this is the statement of profit or loss. Okay, so kita ada kat sini operating revenue. Kita ada interest. Nanti kita akan ada satu topik kita buat interest hari tu more like the discussion how do we get the interest. Nanti ada satu topik lagi. Kita akan tengok lah, kita akan belajar something that is called spread. Whereby kita nak the interest income ni should be more than interest expense, which means whatever the bank gets in terms of interest should be more than whatever they have to pay. So this is good lah sebab interest income is more than interest expense kan. So ni kita akan belajar later the spread ni. Lagi jauh spread spread ni lagi jauh, the gap is actually lagi bagus Okay, the net income, insurance business masuk dalam ni. And the operating profit, tolak lah allowance whatever, ada recovery semua, tolak tax and zakat. But okay, you get a loss kalau tengok kat sini. Dalam kurungan ni, loss of 3.7 million for 2021. Yeah, I think banyak bank akan report macam ni. So you can go to your banks of your choice and look at their profit or loss. Are they making losses or are they making profit? 2020 dia profit. Ni kenapa dia loss teruk sangat ni? Apa yang banyak ni? Dia ada this one, allowance of impairment on loan. Nampak impairment of loan, ramai orang tak bayar dulu. Naik daripada 300 million something sampai jadi 1. Okay, so they are making loss. Alright, the risk of financial institutions. Okay, kalau sikit je yang ni saya continue terus je. Setakat mana kita boleh stop Sebab kalau ikut tadi part 1 tu sampai risk je. Risk ni setengah jam je. Alright, so the risk of financial institutions, why financial institution need to manage their risk So kalau tengok tadi here, nampak loss kan daripada profit jadi loss. So this is something yang worrying They should be worried from profit sekarang dah jadi loss and kita boleh nampak lah because of this. Sebabnya the operating revenue dia naik pula turun Operating revenue dia pun turun. So expenses dia naik. Bila macam ni revenue dia turun, expenses dia naik, memang dia loss lah. Right, so the risk, so the major objective of this financial institution is actually to increase the financial institution's returns for its owner. So the risks have increased as the Malaysian economies become more integrated and financial institutions that have no foreign customer. Right, kita tengok forex kan, we need the financial institutions to govern the forex ni, the foreign exchange ni. But if they have no foreign customer pun, they can still be exposed to foreign exchange. Because why? Even though the bank itself, they don't have foreign customer, but their local customer ni, whoever their local customer, if they deal in foreign countries, if they deal in foreign exchange, so eventually the banks or the financial institutions, dia akan ada risk ni juga walaupun dia tak ada foreign customer. Alright, so these are the type of risk faced by financial intermediaries ni kita boleh kata can be divided into two. Off balance sheet risk and balance sheet risk. Off balance sheet maksudnya something outside of the financial statement. Balance sheet risk is things that is inside the financial statement. So ini financial statement, ini outside. Jadi kita off balance sheet, off balance sheet maknanya outside financial statement. Alright. These are balance sheet risk. Okay. So we have credit risk, liquidity risk, interest rate risk, market risk, and also insolvency risk. So let's look at one by one. So for credit risk, okay, credit risk again you can go or you can refer to our previous notes because when we talk about credit risk we are actually talking about the risk of default, risk of non-payment of borrowing. So you can see from mBank's financial statement tadi tu. Kita boleh nampak dia punya allowance for provision tadi kan, provision yang tak payah loan tu. So naik that amount, so naik. Jadi the credit risk is quite high, which means the risk of non-payment of borrowing or financing provided to a borrower on maturity date. Okay, let's say the loan must be settled in 6 years, tapi by year 6 loan tu tak settle. So that is the credit risk. Arise due to promised cash flow on the financial claims. Okay, for example, coupon bond issued by corporation and bank loans held by financial intermediaries will not be paid in full. Okay, so kalau no default, maknanya tak ada default, orang tu bayar balik the financial intermediaries earn coupon on the bonds and the interest on the loan. So kalau default, zero interest of the loan. Remember kita tengok hari tu kan ada principal price interest masa kita buat bonds, right? Kita buat capital market tu ada bond. So kalau no default dia akan dapat dua-dua lah. Dia akan dapat principal, dia akan dapat interest. Of course dia nak interest principal ni whatever you pinjam you kena bayar balik lah plus the interest. But in case of default, in some cases interest dia tak dapat pun. And may lost part or all of the principal lend. So this is the credit risk for bank. Alright, for credit risk ni, it depends on the firm specific credit risk and also the systematic credit risk. Ini kita, if you go back to, for example, credit card credit card loans continue to grow and unused balance. So credit card loan guna tapi tak bayar. So that is the credit risk faced by banks. Implications of growing credit risk. Okay. Importance of credit screening. It is very important. That is why sometimes you dengar your saudara ke cerita kan, apply dekat bank tu tak dapat, loan tak lepas. Okay. Because of this credit screening. They screen you whether you are entitled or whether is it worth it to give us loan. Because nak tengok ni credit risk ni, are we able to pay back the loans? And the importance of monitoring credit extended, and sometimes they give you extension, they give you adalah dia buat recalculate balik and they give you credit extended. So again bank have to monitor. Role for dynamic adjustment of credit risk premium and also diversification of credit risk. So this is the chart dia dah belah ni. Next is liquidity risk. Okay, tadi credit risk, the risk of the borrower will not be able to pay back the amount borrowed. For liquidity risk, it means depositor demands immediate cash and holders of balance sheet exercise right to borrow. So kita tengok the flow. Kita kata okay, for those yang ada surplus dia pergi simpan dekat bank. So those yang ada deficit dia akan pergi borrow. What if orang tak pergi simpan, so tak ada surplus, tapi yang nak pinjam tu banyak ataupun yang mana dah simpan, dia nak keluarkan balik. So that is the risk for financial institution because of this liquidity crisis ataupun liquidity risk ni. Okay, and sometimes it can lead to solvency problem lah untuk bank. Kita jarang-jarang dengar bank tak cukup duit kan. That is why in Malaysia kita ada statutory reserve requirement tu. So there are certain amount that bank ni kena letak dekat bank negara. So that this situation will not happen. Okay, bank tu takkan bankrupt sebab dia ada reserve dekat bank negara. So bank negara akan control dan akan regulate lah, akan advise the bank what to do to manage their risk ni. So it is again it is about the risk of being forced to borrow or sell asset in a very short period of time. Okay, so the runs ni is liquidity problem lah untuk banks. Risk of systematic bank panics. Ni ada example lah nanti 85 fire dekat US ni because of the market forced to borrow or sell in a very short period of time. So dalam masa yang singkat semua benda ni happen, so will give problems to the bank. Alright, so for liquidity risk, it can be divided into two types of liquidity risk. Satu, risk of not being able to convert asset into cash, and when the need arises without reducing its value, so they have to strike a balance between profitability and also liquidity. Right, this is not able to convert asset into cash. Whatever yang dia ada, dia tak boleh nak convert into cash. But for type 2 is not being able to have access to funds. Ini pun akan jadi liquidity risk juga. So satu, you cannot get the fund, so that is considered as liquidity risk. Secondly, is the first one is you cannot convert the asset into cash. So for example, kalau kita kata when we talk about for example manufacturer, katakan dia manufacture baju contohnya. So dia punya inventory banyak, dia banyak baju, tapi they cannot sell. So dibuat banyak, tapi they cannot sell. So they have liquidity risk or liquidity problem because they cannot convert their inventory into cash. Sebab you buat benda banyak simpan dekat warehouse, itu jadi inventory kan. But you have to convert, you have to sell to get cash. Tapi tak berjaya, tak boleh, you cannot sell. For some reason, orang tak nak fashion tu ke apa, they cannot sell. If they cannot sell, that is the liquidity risk because they cannot convert that inventory into cash. So that is risk of type 1 risk. Type 2 ni, tak ada access to funds. Nak pinjam duit, tapi tak boleh pinjam because of various reasons lah, tak layak or tak dapat better credit limit yang dia nak ataupun dia nak pinjam 1 million tapi dia hanya berjaya pinjam 200,000 contohnya. So not able to get access to funds. Itu pun liquidity risk tapi type 2 So satu tak boleh convert into cash, satu tak dapat access to funds, dia tak ada cash lah. Okay. Next one is interest rate risk. Okay, interest rate risk pun kita dah tengok before. So untuk interest rate risk ni asset transformation, beli primary securities and issue secondary securities or liability. Tapi bila ada mismatch of maturity of assets and liability ni, dia ada interest rate risk lah. Macam kita dah tengok sebelum untuk capital market tu kan. Dia ada interest rate risk. So you kena pandai-pandai lah. Maknanya the bank have to make sure that when they transform their assets, maknanya from primary security nak issue balik secondary security ataupun liability tu, nak issue balik berapa banyak deposit dia nak ambil, berapa banyak finance ataupun loan dia nak bagi so dia kena betul-betul manage lah. Right, and then sometimes there is a mismatching in the interest rate risk which means ini pun kita dah tengok before the factors affected the interest rate change ni, the economic factor, the political factor semua tu and because of this the bank must make sure that the maturity of asset and liability tu, kalau ada mismatch, which mean yalah katakanlah dia punya deposit tu short term tapi dia bagi loan long term, so ada mismatch dekat maturity tu. That is why nanti it is very hard for them to control because of the interest rate. And then we also know that interest rate ni memang fluctuate kita belajar masa topik tu interest rate tu. So interest fluctuate and it depends on various factor the interest rate ni. So they really have to measure the sensitivity difference ni so that the asset and liability ni kita kata the maturity to match so that tak ada, when there is an inconsistency then they might have problems. Right, market risk. Okay, market risk again related to interest rate and also foreign exchange rate. Here, whereby when banks have decline in income from deposit taking, saya kata tadi lah, masa awal-awal MCO tu mungkin orang tak nak deposit duit pun sebab tak ada kan, so people go to their savings account and withdraw. They don't deposit money but they withdraw money. So this is also a problem for banks because that is what they have for them to regulate. Dia ada deposit and then deposit tu dia guna untuk loans and advances kan. But what happen if semua customer datang withdraw? So here it means decline in income from deposit taking and lending match by increased reliance on income trading. So they really have to establish controls or limit on day-to-day exposure to risk. So they really have to manage this and how they should do this. That is why dia ada hedging dalam macam topik derivatif hari tu bank buat hedging, they involved in forex market and also offshore market yang kita akan tengok later nanti. Right, ini again when we talk about market risk, so bank normally kita kata they takes a position ataupun a long position lah, hedge untuk hedging the position of the bonds, equity, commodity to manage the market risk. Ini semua cerita lama lah ni back in 2002. Alright, this is just the continuation for the market risk ni. Alright, insolvency risk. Insufficient capital to offset sudden decline in value of assets to liability. Right, basically when you look at the risk faced by financial institutions, this is actually risk faced by any business. It's just that for banks or for financial intermediaries, because they involved with deposits and loans, so the risk dia lain sikit lah, because the risk actually closely related to interest rate and also to market risk. So in other business pun, if you look at in detail, other business pun face the same, quite similar types of risks. For example, insolvency risk. So any business will suffer ataupun will experience this insolvency risk, which means they have insufficient capital, okay, to offset the sudden decline in value of the assets and liability. Okay. For example, you have you involve yourself in forex ataupun foreign exchange market ni, and then the rate ataupun the currency of that particular country goes down, so you cannot control. So this is when it goes down, and then you don't have sufficient capital to offset the decline in that value. That is why banks really have to manage their insolvency risk to make sure that they have sufficient capital. And again, we go back to this statutory reserve requirements, right? Set by negara. Okay, so the original cause of insolvency risk may be due to excessive interest rate, market credit risk, technology, technological, forex, sovereign, and also liquidity. Itu semua faktor lah boleh menyebabkan this risk, insolvency. Dia tak cukup capital. And this is the worst lah, insolvency capital. Alright, tadi all factors ataupun all risks presented earlier is actually all the balance sheet risk. Here is the off balance sheet risk. Saya kata tadi outside tu, outside because we're talking about contingent asset and liabilities. Something that is not in the financial statement. Right? For example, when we talk about contingent liability, contohnya, okay, katakan macam sekarang tengah hot, kita tengok the trial of our XPM, Najib. So dia kena charge because of the transfer of assets tu yang kata hadiah from Saudi Arabia apa semua tu, but they fail to show that there is really a gift lah from the Arab Saudi government. Anyway, so when we talk about contingent, saya bagi contoh contingent liability ni is something, let's say this company ataupun this bank kena saman, right? When you kena saman, when someone file for bankruptcy contohnya, when dia saman the bank, selagi kes tu berjalan, we do not know whether bank tu akan menang ataupun kalah. So kalau menang, maybe dia akan dapat duit lah. Tapi kalau kalah, maybe dia kena bayar balik pada customer kan. Contohnya kalau dia kena saman dengan customer. So ini kita kata contingent liability. Sebab selagi verdict dari court tu tak dapat, that is a liability. Contohnya the customer file for a lawsuit of 1 million. Yang 1 million 1 million. 1 million ni kita tak dapat dalam balance sheet dia tau. Kita tengok dekat sini tadi when we go back to the financial statement tadi. Liability Okay. Investment, deposit, recourse, obligation, loan, financing. Okay, so tu jaga emas, derivative, ada liabilities. Okay. Contingent liability tak masuk dalam ni. Yang dia kena saman tu tak masuk dalam tu. Tapi dia kena mention dalam notes to the account dia kata dia kena saman of 1 million. In that case, kita tahu okay dia kena saman 1 million. Belum tentu dia menang, belum tentu dia kalah. Alright, kalau dia menang, dia tak perlu bayar lah dekat customer yang sue dia 1 million tadi tu Tapi kalau dia kalah, dia kena bayar. That would be their liability. Tapi the liability tak ada dalam balance sheet lagi. Sebab tu dia kata off balance sheet. Ada liability kena saman, tapi tak masuk dalam balance sheet lagi. So that is contingent liability. So in this case, the risk is still there. The risk is still there because dia dah kena saman. So these are also the risks on activities related to contingent assets and liability. Interest rate, credit risk, currency risk, unique risk, letter of credit, loan commitments by bank, mortgage servicing contract by thrift and positions in forward, future, swap, options, etc. Ini pun sama, when they put position in forward, future, swap, ini pun tak tahu kan, we don't know. These things are not in the balance sheet. Tak ada. When you put position dekat forward ataupun future market ni, dekat derivative ni, it is not in the balance sheet. Yang ada dalam balance sheet tu yang dah settle, yang belum settle tak ada dalam balance sheet. So kita kata dia contingent lah, dia belum tentu jadi asset ataupun liability. Right, so it's just a commitment je, you commit je. Katakan the year end is December. You sign contract kata okay, nak bagi loan dekat certain bank. You want this bank A nak bagi loan dekat bank B, sign contract. Belum bagi lagi, baru sign contract. Itu ialah komitmen. Komitmen ni tak masuk dalam balance sheet tadi Dalam balance sheet tadi tu, whatever dah sign dan approve, katakan you nak bagi loan dekat bank B, dah approve, dah bagi pun loan tu dekat bank B, that loan is already in the balance sheet. Tapi when you just commit, sign je, belum bagi lagi, tak masuk dalam balance sheet. But whatever you commit tu dah jadi something called contingent asset and also contingent liability. Let's say commit untuk beli something. Commit untuk beli something, commit untuk jual something. Komitmen je, contract je, tapi belum buat lagi. Dan benda tu takkan masuk dalam balance sheet. But the risk is still there. Kalau you dah commit, kata nak beli nak beli property contohnya, property of 1 million, dah sign contract nak beli. Tapi tak boleh masuk sebagai aset lagi sebab belum bayar, belum beli betul, baru sign, baru commit je nak beli tahun depan. Benda tu, transaction tu berlaku this year, katakan hari ni berlaku December 2021. Nak bagi loan 2022. So in 2021 balance sheet tak nampak benda tu dalam balance sheet because it's not happening yet. Dia akan jadi tahun depan. Tapi komitmen tu kita dah ada sekarang, kita dah tahu dah sekarang So that is considered as off balance sheet risk, contingent contingent upon something lah. Macam tadi kalau kena saman, contingent upon result of the court ataupun court decision tu. So yang ni komitmen ni contingent upon, tengoklah jadi jual ke tak, jadi beli ke tak So ini komitmen. Komitmen not in the balance sheet. Tapi still a risk because you already, the bank already committed Okay, yang baru saya cerita tadi, off balance sheet risk are activities that do not appear on current balance sheet Dia tak masuk dalam balance sheet lagi sebab dia tak ada betul-betul claim ataupun asset ataupun liability lagi. Sebab benda tu tak ada lagi Now for example, ini pun komitmen standby letter of credit, backup for issuance of bond by government. Standby letter ada je tapi belum guna. So tak masuk dalam balance sheet. Commission earned reflected in the income statement. Tak masuk lagi dalam income statement tapi benda tu sebagai something yang standby Okay, so what do a financial institution must do So they have to strike growth of balance sheet activities lah. Kena make sure that if they commit, ada letter of credit, ada loan commitments, ada derivative position, they have to really make sure that dia kena jaga benda ni betul-betul. Otherwise, off balance sheet risk dia sangat tinggi benda tak ada dalam balance sheet. The balance sheet looks fine, looks normal, tak ada liability yang banyak, tak ada asset yang ataupun aset dia cukup, tak ada nampak kurang. So balance sheet dah curam. But if they do not manage their off balance sheet risk ni, they do not strike growth ataupun balance between these ni, so it will be a higher risk for them because they have this off balance sheet risk that we cannot see in the balance sheet. And also all the speculative activities using off balance sheet items also create a considerable risk, such as this one. Futures, forward, option, swap ni, ini ialah speculative activities. So akan bagi quite a high risk juga. Okay, what about other risk? So kita dah tengok tadi kita ada balance sheet risk, all the items in the balance sheet already included in the balance sheet. Kita ada off balance sheet risk, items ataupun outside the balance sheet lagi, but already happening, but not included in the balance sheet, not yet, because of contingent upon something. And we also have other risk. Okay, other risk, technology risk, operational risk, forex risk, and also country risk. Right, let's look at the first one, forex risk. Okay, when the exchange rate affect the value of financial intermediaries, assets and liabilities dominant in foreign currency. Remember when we did foreign exchange, right? Some banks, most of the banks, and they have assets outside Malaysia, right? They have investment outside Malaysia. So whatever they invest outside Malaysia, that investment is actually depends on foreign exchange rate. So there will be a foreign exchange risk, especially if they have assets and liability denominated in foreign countries. So akan ada forex loss. Okay, forex gain kita tak record, kita record forex loss. Okay? So returns on domestic and foreign direct investment not perfectly correlated. Okay, domestic investment ada, foreign direct investment pun ada, tapi not really correlated because of forex risk ni. Ataupun they might have underlying technologies of various economies differ, or exchange rate changes are not perfectly correlated across country. So again, we're talking about the assets and liability denominated in foreign currency. If the foreign currency and the other assets to the rate increase, then okay lah. But if the rate decrease, or the currency goes down, so they might have trouble, and they might have to face this foreign exchange risk. Country or sovereign risk, okay, ini pun sama jugalah. Repayment from foreign borrower interrupted because of the foreign government. Okay, so other foreign borrowers come from certain countries yang tengah perang contohnya, so very difficult for them to pay back the payment. So that is a country risk. Foreign country unwilling or unable to repay a loan. Dia tak nak bayar, dia tak boleh bayar. So financial intermediary has little recourse, nothing much can be done. Okay, so the next step is, because in order for them to give loans contohnya pada customer from certain countries, they have to do research, they have to do screening. They cannot simply bagi je, especially macam ni, bagi contoh Brazil, country yang memang tak stable, the politically not stable. So sometimes the financial intermediaries ni choose not to provide loans to them. And sometimes the loan is a long-term loan. The first 2-3 years might be okay, they can pay back, but after 5 years contohnya, something happening in their country, so they cannot pay. So that is another risk faced by the financial intermediaries, country risk, which is related to the country concerned, right? Supply of loans or funds to the country or from the country concerned. And sometimes ada juga restriction on repayments to foreigners. So ini example-nya lah. Exposure to foreign government ni, restriction or repayment to foreigners. So they restrict, nak bayar dekat foreigner ni ada certain rules that they have to follow. So when there is a restriction, rescheduling or outright prohibition of repayment, financial institution remain by nature its future supply of loans. So ini pun sama lah, depends. And then also the role of IMF. So IMF ni International Monetary Fund, okay, they aim to aid to trouble banks. Okay, so siapa yang ada problem, dia tolong, dia bagi duit pinjam. Tapi dia loan shark, dia bagi pinjam, and then you have to pay back a lot. Okay, for this IMF ni, nama dia International Monetary Fund. So bank untuk global lah, whoever needs extra fund can go to IMF and borrow. Technology, okay, technology and operational ni, I think you all can relate when we talk about technology risk. Technological investment do not produce anticipated cost savings. For example, certain banks, and when they embark on, contohnya dulu, tak semua bank ada internet banking. They have to embark, they have to spend a lot on this technology investment kan. Dia kena cari orang buat the software, buat jaga the server, and then nak buat server pun macam-macam modul dalam tu kan. Saving macam mana, transfer macam mana, nak bayar dekat bank lain macam mana, nak bayar dekat bill, nak bayar bill semua macam mana. So it's a very high cost, millions, they incur millions untuk develop their system, their internet banking system contohnya. But sometimes it falls apart. Tak jadi pun, you spend a lot tapi benda tu not operating well enough, ataupun the user tak suka, ataupun not user friendly kan. They spend a lot but it is not user friendly. So walaupun they expect cost saving daripada that investment, but it's not, apparently it's not. So that is also a technology risk, because sometimes kita tengok certain banks want to introduce something new tapi ada resistant kan, orang tak suka, ni apa ni macam ni kan. And also operational risk, okay, existing technology or support system might malfunction or breakdown. So untuk dua ni dia lebih kurang lah, because sometimes kadang-kadang kita tengok sama juga kan, because not only the banking system, kita punya telecommunication pun kan, sometimes satu hari tu Celcom tak ada line. Itu dia punya risk dia. Dia tak ada line, habis semua orang kecoh. Semua business interrupted kan, habis dia kena marah sana sini. And they don't want that to happen. Itu kalau untuk telecommunication. And then sometimes, memang tu you tak boleh pakai. You masuk tak boleh. Hari tu ada isu tag number tak dapat. Tunggu sampai 1 jam tak dapat. So those are the operational risk. And then they do not know masa bila dia akan ada breakdown. So all business, I think, have to face this risk, not only our telecommunication, not only our banking, our electricity pun kan, our internet, tak ada elektrik, tak ada tu. So dia akan interrupt, that is operational risk. So for banks, for financial institutions, if they want to invest in technology ni, they have to make sure that the technological expansion ni will result in cost savings. Buat saja tapi tak ada cost saving pun tak guna juga. So these are the risks that they have to face lah, technology and operational risk. Also risk that technology investment fails to produce anticipated cost saving. Ini macam saya kata tadi lah, when you invest something, especially in technology, you want to reduce cost, you want to increase the customer satisfaction contohnya. But if you mismanage ataupun you invest wrongly, or the technology that you take to tak berapa bagus, that is the risk. There will not be any cost savings, and the risk that technology may break down. Okay, just give you examples. So sometimes here example dia Citibank ATM network, dia buka sistem online banking out for 2 days. Imagine what happen kalau jadi macam ni kan, kita tak nak keluar duit, kita tak nak belanja, tak nak guna kad. So customer memang mengamuk. So that is a technology risk. And then the bank also will face loss lah. Katakan orang ada account dekat Maybank dan Bank Islam contohnya. So Bank Islam punya ni down, stop transaction, pergi ke Maybank. So rugilah for this 2 day for this Citibank ni. Bank of New York, someday computer system fail to recognize incoming payment messages sent via Fed wire. Ni New York punya. Although outgoing payment succeeded. Nampak? Dia tak boleh capture the transaction tu. Again, technology risk juga. And when we talk about technology, kita nampak lah, technology is actually depending on technology. Operational risk ni, selain dari operation tadi, it also result from employee juga. Sometimes ada fraud and error. So for your information, for banks, I'm not sure saya dah pernah cerita ke tak. Untuk bank staff ni, dia ada satu jenis leave yang dia panggil block leave. Dia adalah block leave. This is compulsory. Sebab apa? Saya tak sure you all ada subjek ke tak yang ajar pasal segregation of duties ni. Orang yang terima duit tak boleh orang yang sama dengan yang bayar duit contohnya. So what happen is that in banks ni, whatever task that they do, dalam 1 tahun dia kena ambil block leave yang straight, 1 week straight. Kiranya kalau dia tak ada dalam masa 1 week tu, sistem lain tu jalan macam biasa ke tak? Ataupun bila dia tak ada dalam masa 1 week tu, kita boleh detect, selama ni apa yang dia buat selama ni menipu contohnya. So tapi bila dia tak ada kat tempat dia selama 1 minggu tu, then we can detect lah for whatever kita kata benda-benda yang fraud ataupun error yang sebelum ni, by not having that particular employee for 1 week, sometimes they can detect a lot of things. And it happens pun macam tu. 1 minggu orang ni tak ada, baru nampak, selama ni account tu all the payment tak masuk dekat account customer tu, tapi masuk dekat account dia contohnya. So dia yang jaga benda tu. Tapi kalau the whole year dia jaga je benda tu, dia tak pernah tinggal langsung, nobody can detect that. So bank negara punya ni lah, semua banks ada block leave ni, compulsory. Dalam 1 tahun you have to leave the bank for 1 week, cuti panjang, tak boleh datang kerja. So tinggal whatever kerja that you are doing, tinggal for 1 week. So they have to do that for to make sure that there will be no fraud ataupun errors among employees. Banyak je case yang bank punya staff buat fraud ni because they know the system, dia jaga benda tu, they know the system and dia boleh buatkan. Alright, that is employee frauds and also error. Ini Merrill Lynch pun, ini bank dekat US lah for this operational risk tu. And then you can see sometimes memang kita dengar news lah ada all this kind of fraud and also error. Kalau biasa dengar kita kat Malaysia ni kita refer sebagai CBT, criminal breach of trust. Patutnya you buat kerja tu tapi tipu masuk your own account, so you will charge lah under CBT ni, criminal breach trust ni. Alright, tadi focus more on technological risk. So here is the operational risk, whereby we can talk about again not only technology kita ada employee fraud and errors. We also can have operational risk in terms of inefficiency in the operations. Tak efficient, poor back office control. Kita ada front office dengan back office. Contoh you pergi bank kat kaunter depan tu biasanya kita panggil front office lah. You go to the bank, jumpa the teller teller kat depan tu ialah front office. Back office dia senang, dia pakai front dengan back je depan belakang So front yang dekat front tu, the back office ni yang dekat belakang, especially the server apa semua tu kita tak nampak. What happen at the back tu kita tak nampak So yang approve siapa, yang kena sign check siapa, yang kena review the document siapa, itu semua tak buat dekat front office. Front ni yang you nampak, you deal directly with the customer. Back office ni yang tak deal directly dengan customer. So if their system ataupun the control is poor, this will result again in operational risk. The backup system, nampak macam simple but they really have a good backup system. The quality of personnel, that is why it is very hard. Sometimes macam certain bank, macam bank negara pun dia ada scholarship dia dia bagi good student ni, dia bagi scholarship, and then when you come back you have to work with us. So dia dah pilih dah very good quality student untuk dia bagi scholarship untuk buat internship dengan dia, and then end of the day dia akan absorb lah. Macam TM Telekom Malaysia, TNB, dia ada their own scholarship program. Dia pilih very good students untuk buat internship dan end of the day dia akan absorb sebagai dia punya staff. So dia really control. And then when you want to go to the banks pun, even internship pun ada interview untuk pergi internship ada interview. You pass the interview then you go for internship. Baru pergi internship belum masuk kerja lagi. And then in order for you to join certain banks, dia ada layers of interview, bukan satu, dia ada 3. Contoh macam you can go up to 3 layers. You go first one dulu, you jumpa dengan HR dulu, dengan human resource je dulu. Tak jumpa your boss lagi, tak ada pergi dengan HR dulu. Lepas dengan HR, pergi dekat department dulu pula. Second stage interview. Dah habis, you lepas dengan the department, the third one biasanya you will face your own boss. Itu your real boss nantilah. When you masuk kerja, that will be the boss. So the final stage baru jumpa the real boss. The first and second tu biasa tak jumpa lagi directly. Itu some position and some banks lah. Some dia interview sekali je, dalam tu lah ada HR, dalam tu lah ada your boss. Then they will assess you dekat situ. And then now kebanyakan company or financial institutions apa dia buat ialah even technology company lah dia panggil ramai-ramai. You datang sebagai dia recruit ramai-ramai. You buat training 6 months ke, then only they absorb. Dia pilih yang the best, dia baru dia absorb. Yang lain tu tak dapat, then you balik lah. So macam tu sekali dia nak pilih the personnel ataupun the staff untuk join them. So once you dah join, because the benefits apa semua memang rewarding. It's a rewarding benefits lah. Any questions tak so far? Because here we are talking about the risk faced by by commercial banks. And in fact, not only commercial banks, other banks pun memang akan face the same, the same risk lah, the same type of risk yang what we have presented to you before. So operational risk, technology, then country, Then we have Forex Risk ni. Okay, these are other risks But the focus tadi mula-mula kita tengok balance sheet risk and off balance sheet risk ni. Okay, so I hope you will be able to explain bila kita tanya, okay, what are the risk faced by financial intermediaries or financial institutions. So you should be able to explain balance sheet risk tu apa, off balance sheet risk tu apa, and then give maybe examples of the different types of risk faced by financial institutions, especially commercial banks. Alright, any question tak? Sekarang pukul 10. Saya sambung sikit lagi lah. We look at products offered by commercial banks. So these are actually focusing on commercial banks. Kalau tadi kita tengok the risk tu is actually more of a general risk faced by financial institutions. So here we're going to look at the different products offered by commercial banks. And again, you can go and look at your bank of choice. Kita tengok apa product offered by those commercial banks. The easiest way is that to go to their websites and they will list the products and services offered. So paling penting, alright, so banks, they provide financial services and these are the different types of products offered by commercial banks, whereby we have deposits, loan and advances. This is the general category. Dalam tu ada macam-macam lagi lah. Card services and also electronic banking. Right, so when we talk about electronic banking ni nanti kita tengok next week. This is actually involving electronic interchange of data and funds between customer. For example, you want to transfer some money to different accounts. So this involve electronic banking. Tak payah kita pergi keluarkan duit dekat bank A, bawa duit pergi bank B, masukkan pula dekat bank B. No, you can use the electronic system je untuk transfer. Pergi ke machine and then boleh transfer. Alright, tadi nampak macam ni very simple deposits, loan, card and also electronic banking. So these are the general ataupun basics products or services offered by commercial banks. Deposit, loan and financing, trade finance, card service, money market and the different types of banks. Okay. So for deposits, nampak dia pergi kat sini Ada savings, savings account, macam biasalah savings account Ada current account, ada fixed deposit ataupun investment account. Ini kalau yang Islamic punya dia panggil Islamic account Islamic account pula dia panggil Islamic investment account Ada NCD. Okay, ada fixed deposit ataupun investment account. And then ada NID atau NCD lah. This is yang kita buat money market hari tu kan. Negotiable instruments of deposit ni. Negotiable instruments of deposit. And then last one is FRIA ni. Investment account lah sama macam GIA tadi. So for savings account, I think I don't have to explain in detail. You all already know what is savings account. Semua pun ada savings account. So the focus of saving accounts ni is actually to attract small depositors. Nak simpan duit sikit-sikit kan? Adalah small depositors. Kalau certain bank you nak start nak buka account, kena buka dengan RM RM20 lah, RM10 lah Nak buka account bukan susah, senang je pergi bank. Bawa all the documents. It can be individual, society, persatuan persatuan boleh buka account, savings account, club nak simpan duit dalam tu untuk daily withdrawal. So and salary accounts pun akan masuk dalam savings account salary. akaun gaji And biasanya savings account ni dia akan dapat ATM card. Biasalah because this is something that you already gone through, tapi mungkin you tak perasan, okay, this is savings account. Savings account is for small depositors. Nak buka dia pun senang, very simple. The easiest account is savings account lah. And then the salary pun kadang masuk dalam saving account. And then if you have a club, a society, you boleh pergi buka saving account under nama club, nama society. And normally when you go sign up for saving account, you will be given ATM card. Sebab apa? Sebab senang nak withdraw duit pergi dekat machine dia, because kita, you must remember, kita buka saving account ni because you want daily withdrawal and deposits kan. Every day nak keluar duit pun boleh. That is why we have ATM cards. And then banyak banking transaction boleh buat lah using this ATM card ni. Boleh pakai dekat mana-mana. And the interest dia daily basis. Untuk saving account ni interest dia very low. I say a daily basis So dia akan, kalau untuk conventional account, conventional bank, you akan dapat interest lah. Kalau Islamic bank, you akan dapat, dia panggil sebagai profit kan. Dia tak bayar interest So dia bagi small profit based on mutarabah. Ini nanti kita akan tengok lah the different group nanti yang buat different Islamic contract ni. So kalau Islamic, kalau yang conventional dia kata savings account, kalau yang Islamic account biasanya dia akan kata wadiah lah. Okay. Untuk saving account. Wadiah ni maksudnya safekeeping, bank tolong simpan duit kita. Tu maksud dia, konsep dia sama je dengan conventional So wadiah bank safekeeping, bank simpankan duit kita. And kita akan dapat small profit lah based on mudarabah konsep profit sharing tu. Bila dia simpan duit kita, dia tolong simpan, kita bayarlah dia fees sebagai upah dia simpan duit kita. Itulah konsep untuk Islamic contract ni So kalau untuk saving account ni, apa lagi dia ada dia ada ATM, dia boleh guna checkbook juga, dia boleh buat fund transfer. So for your saving account, you have contoh you pakai internet banking, so you can buat all the transaction guna your savings account. Nak bayar Shopee boleh, nak bayar beli barang online boleh pakai the saving account you pakai, ada ATM card boleh withdraw, pergi makan boleh pakai the account boleh buat fund transfer, boleh buat bill payment. Ada internet banking untuk savings account and ada statement juga boleh print kalau nak print nak check balance. Bila kita pergi withdraw duit dapat receipt kan, you can check the balance. These are the services ataupun kita kata the features of saving accounts. So dalam ni tak ada the explanation but you can relate and you can note down lah what is the features of savings accounts. And then nak buka saving accounts mesti 18 years old dan Malaysian citizen dan permanent resident. Bawah 18 tak boleh, boleh tapi kena ada nama kita panggil sebagai guardian lah penjaga. So below 18 atau below 12 kena ada penjaga below 18 boleh lagi. Tapi operated under guardian juga. Kalau bawah 18 tu, 12 ke 18 tu masih lagi perlukan guardian perlukan penjaga. Okay, again deposit tadi saya kata lah very low RM20 je kadang-kadang tu ataupun RM10 je dah boleh buka savings account Next would be current account. Ini deposit je dulu we talk about deposit dulu. Current account ni pun untuk individu yang ada business biasanya. Okay, sebabnya this will allow them for their daily usage dan bukan setakat dia ada ATM card, dia dapat overdraft. Overdraft maknanya dia ada checkbook dia ada checkbook. Current account ni dia ada checkbook. Okay, dia ada checkbook and bank allow for certain amount of overdraft. Let's say dalam account dia ada RM20,000, dia nak bayar RM25,000. Bank bagi overdraft RM10,000. So dia boleh lah. Sebab within amount kan, dia dalam account dia ada RM20,000 je, bank bagi dia overdraft RM10,000. Maknanya dia boleh hutang sampai RM10,000. So dia nak buat payment more than 20,000, dalam tu duit ada RM20,000 je tapi dia ada overdraft So nak buat benda tu kena ada current account. Saving account tak boleh buat saving account whatever you ada kat dalam tu itu je amount yang boleh pakai. Current account yes and mesti above 18 kalau nak join nak buka current account. And then minimum biasanya untuk individu 500, tinggi sikit nak buka current account ni sebab dia boleh bagi overdraft. Okay. Dan biasanya nak buka current account kena ada introducer, kena ada someone yang ada current account dekat bank to introduce you to the bank in order for you to open the account. existing current holder of the same bank. Tak ada introducer, sometimes tak boleh lah. You cannot simply pergi buka current account. And the benefit dia sama je dengan saving ni, ada ATM, boleh guna, dapat interest, ada fund transfer, ada internet banking, semua sama je. It's just that current account ni dia ada overdraft lah for their business biasanya, for business untuk dia punya capital. Okay, fixed deposit, FD for conventional investment account for Islamic bank. Okay, IA Islamic account for investment bank. You simpan duit for a specific period of time. You boleh simpan 6 months, 12 months, long term nama dia pun fixed deposit. Tapi bila you simpan sebulan, 2 bulan, 3 bulan, sampailah 12 bulan, biasanya kita tak boleh withdraw sampailah maturity. Nama dia fix kan, you tak nak fix, you masuk saving lah. Masuk hari ni, besok nak withdraw pun boleh. Kalau FD tak boleh. Let's say dia buat FD 6 months. Duduklah duit dekat situ 6 months. You cannot withdraw. Okay, sebab dia nak calculate interest. Sebab dia nak calculate interest. After 6 months baru boleh withdraw. Withdraw plus the interest yang dia bagi kita tu agak banyak lah. So siapa yang boleh buat FD ni, again above 18 contohnya you deposit 5,000 untuk sebulan. Tak keluarkan duit 5,000 tu. Ada duit, you don't know what to do with the money. Simpan je dekat FD. So dapat interest after 5 months or 6 months. Ataupun tadi after 1 month, you can withdraw. Withdraw the money. Then you can enjoy the interest lah for the fixed deposit ni. Maknanya the money will be there. You tak boleh withdraw sampailah the maturity period tu. So kalau nak buat sebulan, 2 bulan, 6 bulan, 12 bulan, boleh lah. Okay. Boleh withdraw sebelum, bukan, dia tak bagi nama pun FD but you still can withdraw. Katakanlah you letak untuk 3 bulan. Bulan kedua you dah withdraw. Tak ada interest bayar Sebab nama fixed deposit kan, tipu je ni, nak letak 3 bulan tapi bulan kedua you dah withdraw. So rugilah, you will not get any interest. Tapi kalau lebih buat 6 bulan, bulan ketiga dah nak bawa keluar duit dah. Atau bulan keempat dah nak bawa keluar duit dah. So the interest tu dia akan apportion, you tak dapat semua. Rugilah because this is really when you really have surplus of fund, letak dekat situ senyap jangan usik. Jangan pula nak keluar balik nak ambil keluar balik masuk savings je. Kalau fixed deposit tak ada, dia kena duduk senyap je dekat situ. And then NID ni kita dah belajar masa kita belajar money market tu. Ini you pergi deposit certain money untuk investment ini boleh jual before maturity date ataupun on the maturity date in the secondary market. Kita pergi beli money market instrument, simpan dekat bank, and when you need the money boleh jual balik. Interest bearing, okay, ada interest. It can be because kita buat sebelum ni short term so you can go back to our money market topic untuk baca balik about NICT ni. Okay, FRA ni pun samalah, yang sebelah dia pun samalah dengan NID ni. Okay, so this one. Alright. Next is loan and financing. Okay, kalau tengok loan nampak ni. I don't think I will explain one by one. Banyak gila dekat sini. So yang saving current FD, NID, FRA ni untuk deposit. So dia pergi macam ni lah. Loan and financing, ini semua produk under loan and financing. Ini termasuk bank Islamic bank sekali lah dalam ni. Kalau tengok so dalam loan ni, these are the focus kan. Ini adalah sources of fund, ini adalah users of fund of financial institutions. Okay. So for loan financing ni, I think everybody knows what is a loan or arrangement, borrower, you and me, the public to obtain financing from the bank with an agreement to repay. Kalau ambil duit tak bayar balik, tu bukan loan nama dia, tu nama dia bagi hadiah je, hibah je. Tapi loan, you ambil certain money based on certain arrangement, berapa tahun, berapa percent interest, with an agreement that you will repay back the bank. Itu ialah loan. Dan biasanya ada date lah, repayment date tu ada, date dia. Contoh you buat car loan, hire purchase. Repayment date every 28 of the month. Setiap 28 hari bulan kena bayar. Itu agreement dia. So you kena bayar lah. Let's say buat loan sampai 6 tahun, sampailah tahun ke-6 you kena bayar the loan pada 28 hari bulan setiap bulan. Nampak? That is why loan dia kira months. Dia tak kira tahun, dia kira months. repayment tu dalam bentuk months. And then loans can be secured or unsecured. Secured maksudnya you mortgagekan benda lah, ada cagaran. Ambil loan ada cagaran, cagar rumah, cagar tanah. Or unsecured. Unsecured loan, you buat loan, you don't have to secure anything to the bank. Maksud secured ni biasanya kalau loan yang tempoh yang panjang, amount yang banyak, dia nak something so that when you default, ada default risk tadi kan, ada credit risk tadi, if you cannot pay, bank akan ambil your security asset tu, whatever asset that you secured. Dia biasanya kalau ada default, bank akan ambil lah. So most loans are secured to protect against non-payment by the borrower. So these are the categories of loan yang ada banyak ni. So mungkin you can read based on your banks of your choice tu. Apa maksud contoh apa bridging loan, apa property loan. Kalau property loan ni biasanya beli rumah, so ada property loan. Apa computer loan, apa fixed asset loan. Hire purchase, when you talk about hire purchase biasanya namanya is sewa beli. Hire purchase biasanya untuk equipment lah ataupun motor vehicle, hire purchase ni. So kalau term loan, basically ada tak dalam ni term loan. Term loan, ni term loan. Term loan ni kita kata biasanya untuk dia, it can be combined. Contoh property loan. Property loan can be term loan. Home loan can be term loan. Term maksudnya ada term. Loan yang ada term, you have to, macam saya kata tadi lah, you have to repay based on certain period dan ada maturity date. So untuk overdraft tadi, current account tadi, kita tahu current account ni untuk day to day business kan. Duit dia tak cukup, okay, hari ni dia guna, besok dia top up balik. But loan ni bukan. Loan ni bukan untuk daily business. Loan ni untuk purchase one item. Contoh you nak beli machinery. Kilang company nak beli machinery. So dia pergi buat loan untuk beli that particular machinery. And dia tak buat setiap hari lah pergi buat pergi beli machinery, orang tak buat setiap hari. Dia bukan day to day operation. So dia nak beli asset. So housing loan, okay, housing loan ataupun home loan, home loan, housing loan, beli rumah. And normally kalau rumah tu tengah buat, customer akan bayar progress payment dekat bank sampailah rumah tu siap. Di residential property, segala jenis residential property under home loan ni lah. So untuk home loan ni agak kita boleh kata main categories of loan untuk commercial bank ialah home loan. Hutang yang banyak dekat commercial bank is home loan lah, orang buat home loan. And the main contribution lah. And the secured home loan biasanya secured. Secured apa? Secured atas rumah tu sendiri. Which mean you tak boleh bayar rumah tu, bank boleh ambil balik rumah tu dan bank boleh lelong. So, kadang-kadang kita nampakkan iklan rumah bank lelong harga murah. So bank lelong dia akan lelong harga murah lah. Sebab dia dah ambil from the owner. Why dia ambil from the owner? Sebab owner tu tak boleh repay back the amount. So kalau untuk housing loan ni, because this is the big chunk of the loan for commercial bank datang dari home loan and hire purchase. So untuk home loan ni pun biasanya akan ada legal cost, kena bayar nak sign agreement. So the customer kena bayar legal cost tapi kena bayar sendiri dekat property developer. Bank tak bayarlah, the legal cost tu kena bayar sendiri. Bank hanya bayar macam ada legal cost, ada stamp duty. So bank akan bayar, kita akan pinjam dekat bank ikut harga rumah tu lah, the valuation tu. And the customer ada banyak benda lah yang dia kena bayar, the insurance, the stamp duty, the legal cost, semua borne by the customer. Yang lain tu, harga rumah tu bank akan bayar. So in order for you to apply for a home loan, macam biasalah kena ada IC, kena ada payslip, kena ada EA form ataupun EPF statement, nak tengok tak orang ni betul-betul boleh bayar balik the loan ataupun tidak. You kena ada agreement, sell and purchase agreement, kena ada receipt dah bayar ke apa ke, ada bukti kan. And then ada bank statement of course, because they want to screen you whether are you entitled to receive the loan from the bank. Okay, itu home loan. And another famous loan selain daripada home loan, selain daripada term loan, is personal loan. Ada tak personal loan kat sini? Nampak saya personal loan. Ada lagi satu which is personal loan. So personal loan untuk specific purpose. Ada yang buat ni personal loan. Yang tanda ni is yang the famous one lah, banyak orang buat ataupun yang banyak commercial bank bagi. So dia bagi home loan, dia bagi term loan untuk beli plant machinery ni, and also personal loan. Konsep dia sama juga. It's an agreement over certain period and you have to serve every month sampailah maturity lah, sampailah ke tempoh end of the loan period. And the purpose of personal loan ni boleh jadi macam-macam. Nak beli aset boleh, nak beli tanah boleh, buat personal loan, nak invest boleh. They don't care. Nama dia personal loan. Buatlah loan, gunalah untuk apa-apa pun. The catch is personal loan ni interest rate dia lebih tinggi. Saya ingat masa topik kita bila tak, saya pernah tunjukkan ada macam bank mana, masa tu saya tak ingat ada bank Islam pun ambil personal loan kan. The shorter period you ambil, the higher the interest rate will be. The longer, lower interest rate. Tapi lower pun still tinggi interest rate for personal loan is quite high. So ada yang buat untuk education, untuk beli komputer, untuk macam-macam lah. So for personal loan, biasanya bank perlukan salary slip. Nak make sure that you are able to repay. Employer confirmation, maksudnya okay, saya ialah pekerja di tempat sekian-sekian, which is I have a fixed salary and I can pay back the loan. Monthly statement ataupun bank statement in order for them to kita kata to approve the loan for personal loan. Alright, I think for lain-lain ni kita akan discuss for example untuk card service ni, macam money market kita dah buat, trade finance pun kita dah buat. So untuk card service ni I'll explain next week and we'll proceed with the rest of the commercial bank products next week. Okay, so saya stop dekat sinilah. We've done deposit and also loan financing. Saya stop dekat sini. Lupa pula. Ini stop. Stop here. So kita akan continue next week. Any question tak?
Sekarang okay je.
Okay alright. Okay, so kalau tak ada apa-apa, I will see you next week and kita akan continue the different types of bank products ni sampai habislah sebab ni ada banyak lagi. I think what we're going to look at later, apa yang kita nak tengok nanti is actually something that you are already familiar with. You all ada ATM card, you know macam mana nak guna, you know how to use, and then you know what is the function, and you know mungkin telephone banking mungkin tak pernah guna, tapi kalau card rosak ke apa, you can call kan. And then kita ada mobile apps, mobile banking, ada chatbot. Ini semua something that you may be familiar with, tapi tak apa, I will go through and explain juga. And FPOS kita ada. And then even now, the mobile banking now memang canggih kan. You pergi mana-mana, the way you pay your transaction tu is variety dah sekarang sejak MCO especially. Kalau tak dulu orang tak guna sangat mobile banking ni, ada a few je, but now memang banyak lah all the card. We talk about cards later, and also a part of it will be on Islamic banking. Okay. And then your assignments untuk Islamic banking ni, I think saya letak sampai 17 kan, which is next week. So tengoklah nanti macam mana. Mungkin I will let you go through setiap group tu, akan tunjuk lah the different report yang dia ada tu next week nanti. Okay. Alright, sebab commercial banking ni panjang banyak benda that we can discuss about commercial banking. Alright, so kalau tak ada apa-apa soalan, thank you for today and I will see you next week. Tak ada quiz this week sebab baru buat exam hari tu kan. Tak ada quiz lah. Alright, itu sahaja untuk hari ini kalau tak ada soalan. I'll see you next week.
Okay, Doktor. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor. Thank you, Doktor.
Alright, okay.
Thank you, Doktor.